talk about how caste and race were such supremacist ideas, which we just discussed. But then caste as a concept needs to be analyzed for its origins, for its relation to blood purity, and how it is hierarchical. So, we are always told in India that your system is hierarchical, it is endogamous, and it is hereditary. So, I want to go through these points and explain what is the reason that what we have in India as a social organization is not caste. Marriage is an important part of caste because whenever the colonialists, the white colonialists interacted with the indigenous population, the biracial births caused due to their marriages or even rapes, those biracials were called as, they had different labels, but they were that is how the caste system was born. If I may say, the Christians actually learned this from the Islamic jihad that happened in Spain. You have to remember that they learned it first. They did not invent this system, but then they felt that this power system, either it'll be the Christians or it'll be the Muslims who will win, right? So that fight has not stopped really. The only thing is there's one more element, the communists who have joined the gang. So that is how this whole system is. And if you look at the Pakistani hierarchy, it is similar. It is still there. The migrants from here to Pakistan are called the muhajirs. And if you see the sort of the
idols, these idols are still from Afghanistan, from Iran, from Turkey.
Yes.
They do not have any native idols.
Yes, so they have a very clear hierarchy in Pakistan also even now. So that system has not gone even in many of these parts of the world. Biracial births cause the invention of caste. So how chaste are you? How pure are you? How pure is your blood? That is caste, according to what the word means, right? And so to call our system as caste is in India is itself such a big label of sort of it's a misnomer, and it creates confusion among people in the West because they know that caste is about blood purity, it is about ranking people hierarchically, it is about hereditary nobility, which are things that we did not have.
So they still think it like that in those terms, like Western people, let's just say European or American people, do when they hear caste, they still think it in the sense of blood purity hierarchy, or
they absolutely think it in terms of hierarchy, which they think is blood purity, because that is why they say Brahmins at the top and untouchables at the bottom, and those kind of concepts have been sort of widely discussed in the US. Color, they always say these days that Brahmins were white and Shudras were black or Dalits were black. So this is not true. As you would know, we have a wide range of color across the country. And my grandma, who of course has seen the British time, she used to tell this joke. She said when the British came to our country, they used to say कि हम लोग तो सब गोरे गोरे हैं, आप लोग सब अलग अलग कलर के कैसे हैं? So they said the Indians would say that सब हमारे यहाँ तो सारे घोड़े होते हैं, वो सब मल्टी कलर होते हैं, सिर्फ गधे होते हैं, वो सिर्फ गोरे होते हैं. So only the asses are white. The horses always have a different colors. So this is and there were lots of such jokes. Obviously, our people are very good at making jokes if people are being to fight oppression and suppression, making good music. So we definitely have a list of such jokes which we should collect actually. But that said, colorism, you're right that they still think colorism, which is like so hierarchy, hereditary, sort of heredity, and endogamy, which is marrying just within your clan, are the three things that are very, very core to our caste system. And at the hierarchy, the top is the Brahmin, which is not true. We never really had a system where the Brahmins wielded power. They never did. And that is why they were respected. Now, that said, I wanted to talk about what really is caste. what really is caste hierarchy. They make this pyramid of Brahmins on the top, etc. But in Americas, this was a legal reality. We never had that legal reality in day to day life. But they had the noble or the Spaniards who were born in Spain were considered as peninsulares or the nobles, and they were kept at the top. And they had all the rights, they were all the privileges. Then the Criollos, Spaniards who were born in Americas, then the mestizos, who were individuals of mixed European and indigenous Native American ancestry. So they were white and brown mix, right? Castizos, again, who had 3/4 Spanish and 1/4 Amerindian. Think about the complicated way they have just named people based on the color purity, and the color of their skin and how much blood of Spain they have. 3/4, 1/8, these are the kinds of ways they measured it. Mulattoes were, then comes the black plus white, right? So even the blacks were there brought as slaves in Americas. And so mulattoes, Zambos, and then of course at the very bottom came the indigenous Native Americans, and the last was the Negroes. And that is why the N word is banned in US now, because they realize that this is such a racist system that the words itself are no longer used, right? Because they are racist. And I want to talk here about Wilkerson, the recent book called Caste, The Origins of Our Discontent. Oprah promoted it. New York Times, it made the New York Times bestseller list as a result. And so caste became a household name. What did Wilkerson do in that book? She equated caste and race together, and she said they cannot be separated. And in that process, she also said that America and India are both oppressive countries similar to Nazi Germany. So, one of her famous quotes from that book is, "Race is the skin and caste is the bones." Well, I sort of disagree with that, because in reality, as you have seen, caste was the blood. Caste is the blood purity. That is what caste is. I mean, it's a simple definition which we should note and know, that caste is just about blood purity. It is not the bones, it did not, the system of the caste may be the bones of this country, but race is the skin and caste is the blood purity. So, how did caste emerge in colonial states? It emerged due to marriage. Not even marriage, it may be rapes also, but it was because of mixed blood. So, this point I keep saying blood because we have forgotten that that is what caste really means when they talk about purity, when they talk about untouchability. That was practiced during colonial times, whether in Muslim societies or in Christian societies.
This is how they described it.
This is how they described it. But then they imposed that idea into India, saying that, oh, this is what you are practicing, right? So this is something we have to redefine ourselves. So caste, there was a visitor, Don Pedro, who went to Mexico in the 18th century, and he said, one of his quotes is very interesting to me, because he says, if the mixed blood or the biracial birth is the offspring of a Spaniard and an Indian, the stigma of race slowly disappears at the third step in descent, which means after marrying at the third generation level, because it is held as systematic that a Spaniard and an Indian produces a mestizo. A mestizo and a Spaniard will produce a castizo, and a castizo and a Spaniard will produce a Spaniard, right? Because this person has 7/8 blood of Spanish ancestry. That is how blood purity played its part. So what happened there? What happened there was people always wanted to marry a whiter person. That promoted the idea that white is superior. That promoted the concept of what is called hypergamy. So anyone who has legal stature and social stature higher than them was more desirable as a spouse.
More privilege.
More privilege. And then later you can become, at the third step you'll be like, wow, now my family is a Spaniard. These people are Spaniards. So, by the third generation. So, this is the way the society was structured. This is very important to know because hypergamy as a concept means that there is privilege at a higher level. Whereas endogamy, which we are criticized for all the time, what does endogamy then mean? Endogamy then means that people like to stay within their jati and community because they want to preserve their culture. They don't think that climbing higher is going to give them any sort of privilege in legal parlance or in social structure. So they prefer to keep their society sort of close knit, right? So endogamy in itself shows that our society was not hierarchical. So that is what I want to break the myth, that Indian society was not hierarchical because in one way there was no concept of hypergamy. Really, there was no desire to marry outside. Endogamy was preferred.